The energy is flowing from people that adopt Bitcoin as a store of value. So if 100 people put $1 billion each into the network by buying the Bitcoin, they're putting $100 billion of economic energy into the network. If you put $1 trillion of economic energy into the network, then that's the capacity. You think of it as a battery, and you're pumping energy into the battery. Now, let's pick a mechanical example. A water tower. Create a water tower in the middle of the city, and the water tower has 1,000 gallons capacity, but there's no water in it. Okay, so at the bottom of the water tower, maybe is a bicycle, and if I ride the bicycle, it turns on the pump, and I pump water up to the top of the tower. So I'm doing work to pump water to the tower. Now, how much energy is the tower holding? Well, depends on how much water you pumped into the tower, right? If the tower's got 1,000 gallons of water in it, right? How much energy is that? Well, you measure the weight of the water and the height of the tower, right? And then you calculate the potential energy. And how do you tap into that energy? Well, you turn it the other way, and you open the gate, and the water flows down, and now you can do work, right? You've got energy to work. So what if I have a dam and it can hold 10 million gallons? How'd the energy get there? Well, I mean, with a dam, generally the idea is we hope that the sun shines, it evaporates the water, the clouds rain water down on the mountains, the water flows down the mountain to the dam, right? We let nature or the sun do the work, right? Because it's not so easy for us to haul the water up the mountain, right? But a dam is also holding a huge amount of potential energy. So Bitcoin represents, I think of it like, it's like an aqueduct dam type system. I have a dam or a reservoir, and I have a set of pipes. How much energy is in the system? Well, none if there's no water in the system. What's the cost to build the dam and the pipes, right? When the Romans built the aqueduct system, right, they probably had a dam and they probably had aqueducts. There's a cost to build it. That's a fixed cost. Then there's a cost to maintain it. Now, how much energy can you channel with it? Well, plus or minus a factor of 10 or a factor of 100, right? Probably orders of magnitude difference is the amount of energy. Now, what's the equivalent here? Well, Bitcoin miners, right? The Bitcoin mining system is in essence, it's the fixed and the variable cost to maintain the system. And today, probably $4 or $5 billion a year is going into Bitcoin mining. If you consider the energy that flows into, in this case, the money that goes into buying energy and the money that goes into buying mining rigs, right? That's the maintenance cost of the system. And then how much economic energy can it move? And the answer is, it could move to 800 billion and it could store 800 billion. I think there's two numbers of interest, right? There's how much is it storing? We know that number, about 800 billion. And then it's how much is moving, right? That's the transaction amount on the L1 blockchain. And that's more than 800 billion a year, I think. So could I actually put 8 trillion on it? Yeah, sure. You could put 8 trillion on it as easy as 800 billion. Could I put 80 billion on it? Yeah. So what determines how much economic energy is in the system? Well, if the US government decides to buy $100 billion of Bitcoin, right, then probably the value of Bitcoin is going to be squeezed up. Now the potential energy in the system is much higher. You see that potential energy in a bow when you pull the bow back or the string back on the bow. How about compressed air? If you look at at engineering compressed air canisters. Okay, I give you a scuba tank. Well, how much energy is in it? Well, it depends on whether I filled it up or not, right? Right? I mean, tank, right? It's some amount of compressed air. Is it 1 atmosphere? 1 atmosphere isn't that useful unless you're in outer space when it becomes somewhat useful. But what if it's 10 atmospheres? What if it's 100 atmospheres? Right? Is 100 atmospheres worth of air in a bottle more energy than 1 atmosphere of air in a bottle? Yeah. How'd it get there? You pumped it in. right? You ever try to create a 100 atmosphere air bottle with balsa wood how about glass, right? How about cloth? How about fill in the blank, clay? Why didn't we do it with clay or balsa wood? Because we didn't have the right material.
Yep.
Steel was a better material. Now, how do I pump $10 trillion of monetary energy into something? Well, I need call it a crypto crucible, right? A crypto container. What is Bitcoin? It's a crypto container. What are the other containers for money? Metallic container in the form of gold. But the problem with gold is it's not a closed system, it's an open system, right? If I got 6 billion ounces of gold in the world and we keep adding 2% more a year, but if I've only got 21 million ounces of gold in the world and you could never make any more, then it would be a better container. But no one's come up with a physical commodity which is hard capped. We can't figure it out. So gold's not a very good monetary crucible. What about fiat currency? Well, the best one in the world was the dollar, and it lost 99.5% of its energy over 80 years. So not that good. What's the theoretical best one? Well, if God comes down from heaven above and creates this perfect ledger, and God said there's 21 million tokens, and God's going to keep track of it, and God is incorruptible, and no one can get to God and subpoena God to double the token supply. And if God makes the ledger available to everybody on earth and make sure that whenever I give you 2, I get debited 2, then you've got a perfect monetary container, right? A perfect ledger. But since God's not interested in running our money supply for us, then what's the next best idea? The next best idea is a software system, but it can't be a centralized software system because centralized software systems are corruptible by companies, by programmers, or by government. So it has to be a completely decentralized system. It's the decentralized system that makes it incorruptible. And so Bitcoin is that approximation of a perfect monetary crucible every 10 minutes clicking forward, running across millions of computers in the form of Bitcoin miners and 10, 20, 50, 100,000 nodes as ledgers. But the way to think of it really is there's millions and millions of computers that are all keeping each other in check. It's a cybernetic system in homeostasis, right? In dynamic equilibrium. It tends to stabilize itself. Maybe the most beautiful thing that could be said is Bitcoin is a perfect machine composed of imperfect parts.